So here we are again in another webinar from NSS. Welcome all. This is going to be a very interesting 60 minutes on vulnerability and threat management. So with no further ado, I share the screen to the Executive Director of NSS, George Kapaniris. George.
Hello. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Good morning. My name is George Kapaniris, and I'm the Executive Director of NSS. Thank you, Panos. Thank you very much for joining our webinar today. As you all know, NSS is a well-established international value-added distributor of leading cutting-edge IT solutions, covering technology areas that include information security, security assurance, network optimization, and other important areas. So we have put together several strategic partnerships, as you know, with superior vendors, offering products and services with leading technologies that place NSS ahead of the competition in today's product market. HelpSystems is our latest collaboration, and we're very proud about it. It is an American vendor which provides IT management software and services that expertly solve business problems with elegant solutions by aligning IT business goals to help organizations to build a competitive edge. Being on a journey to help organizations everywhere build a better IT, and together with NSS, we're working in the areas of infrastructure and data protection systems, and network management, business intelligence, security and compliance, with a strong commitment to focus in offering solutions to improve everyday operations, save time and cut costs through reliable and affordable solutions. So today you will have the opportunity to discover Digital Defense by HelpSystems, which is one of the highest performing vulnerability management software solutions according to Gartner, Peer Insights, SANS, and other institutes. Digital Defense can help your company to protect your networks and applications with ease and accuracy. We're delighted to have with us today people from HelpSystems, Zvi Magnes, who is responsible for infrastructure and application security for the EMEA region, and Manuel Evinger, sales engineer, who will share their knowledge and expertise. So guys, hello Zvi, the floor is yours.
Okay, very good. Thank you, George. Thank you. Let me just share my screen. Let's see, screen 2. This should work. Okay, can you guys see my screen?
Perfectly okay.
Yeah? Okay, perfect. Good, good. So welcome everybody, and thank you for taking time out to look at to see our presentation. What we're going to try to do today is we're going to try to cover the our tool, the Dimension, digital our vulnerability scanning tool. And what we'll do is I'll do a presentation, just a couple slides about the company, about HelpSystems, and then we'll talk about the main features, some deployment options, and then my colleague Manuel, after that, will go through the live demo, which I think you'll find very interesting. All right, and of course, if you have any questions, let us know, and we'll get started. All right, so okay, just a couple of, like I said, a couple of slides about HelpSystems. So you can see here that HelpSystems, what we do at HelpSystems, essentially, what's really nice about HelpSystems is that it's a large organization, and what they do is they look throughout the world, they look for cybersecurity companies that have what they believe are good products, good quality products, and a chance to grow them. So really through HelpSystems, you have like a full range of products and product lines in the cybersecurity space. And in terms of customers, I mean, we have thousands and thousands of customers, well-known references. Today, we're going to talk about the Digital Defense Frontline product, just to give you an idea about the kind of quality that's the quality kind of or reference customers that we have. We have the biggest customer, probably one of the biggest customers in the world using our tool, and that's AT&T, all right, for digital defense in the US. Okay, the last slide on HelpSystems, I believe. So essentially, what we're doing here is, if you look at HelpSystems as a company, they do automation, so they do like industrial control equipment and robotics and things like this. That is more, let's say, their legacy type of products and solutions. And we are here representing the cyberspace, the cybersecurity space. Myself, I'm responsible for infrastructure protection, and of course for other tools which NSS is carrying, as well, for let's say data protection and data leakage and manage file transfers and things like this. You can of course talk to George. But today we're going to speak on infrastructure protection. So let's get started. So I think what we see as a path when we're dealing with infrastructure protection is we see there's many different products. We'll touch on them really quickly, but the main, let's say, best-selling products that we see, the product lines, are situated right here on this slide. And I'll just talk a little bit about it. So the first step here on the left is digital defense. And then we have what we call a tool called Core Impact. And then we have Cobalt Strike. So we start on the left here. This is what we see as the main, let's say, the main step in any kind of, or the first step in any kind of, let's say, security program. And the first idea is to find out how vulnerable your network is, how much at risk you are, how safe are you really? And this is the tool that we have, digital defense. This is doing automated vulnerability scanning and risk management of your IT networks and web applications. And the reason that we have it here is, let's say, the first step is because it's very, very easy. There is no work to be done to use this tool, okay? The only work that is required, of course, is to fix the vulnerabilities. And what, of course, digital defense does, the Frontline tool, it will take all the vulnerabilities, it will prioritize it for you, it'll tell you exactly where you need to start, how to continue in your whole remediation life cycle. Because that's really where the work is in a remediation. To use the tool, it's nothing, okay? It's fixing the vulnerabilities, and that's where the tool also helps you in terms of doing the step-by-step workflows and remediation and prioritizing the vulnerabilities as well. The next step, which we're not going to talk about today, hopefully we'll have a session, I think, in another week or 2 weeks. The next step is when you're getting more, let's say you're getting more advanced in your skill set, is doing penetration testing, which is with Core Impact. And Core Impact is a tool that allows you to basically go in and exploit the vulnerabilities that are found. And it lets you basically focus on let's say on a specific portion of your network where you really want to check to see the vulnerabilities and the exploitability of those vulnerabilities. And that is what's done with Core Impact. It's the idea there is it's a wizard-driven, takes you step by step in a penetration testing process, and it has let's say three advantages. I'll just talk about this really quickly because we're not going to talk about it too much today, but we will talk about it a lot more in our next session. Core Impact, what it does is that it essentially enables junior engineers, junior pen testers to perform like senior pen testers because of the wizard and the step-by-step process that it takes you through in the pen testing, in your pen testing project. So this is like a real key because it's very hard to hold on to pen testing, to senior pen testing people. It's very hard in this market. So this allows, again, junior. The other thing that it does, because it automates a lot of the repetitive processes in the pen testing projects, it saves between, well, it really depends on the project, but it saves between 50 to 70% of the time needed on your pen testing project. So if you have a project and using our tool, instead of doing for 1 week, it'll take you maybe 2 or 3 days. So it really has some great features. It's really one of our top line products as well. The next thing I'll talk also just a little bit about is Cobalt Strike. Cobalt Strike is known around the whole world. It's involved in a lot of bad things when they have, with hacked licenses and things like this. There are some out there. Cobalt Strike essentially simulates ransomware, simulates attacks and adversarial attacks inside the network. And it basically navigates through your network. It shows you where it's taking control of different parts of your network, and it's using a lot in red team software. So you can see that we can take you from the beginning, where we're going to start today, in doing automated vulnerability scanning, really easy to use. And here, getting more involved, more sophisticated testing. And here, the ultimate is here with working together with the red team testing. So the whole idea here is that we can provide you the full, let's say, vulnerability solutions for any kind of detection of security vulnerabilities. Okay, let's move on. Essentially today we're going to talk about vulnerability management. We're going to talk about SMP, how you, if you want to provide, let's say, vulnerability scanning services to your customers, or you're a customer and want to receive vulnerability scanning services from a provider. So we have those kinds of tools as well. And just to give you a little bit, we're not going to talk about these other tools, but part of my other responsibility in the infrastructure security, and if you have any interest, you can talk to George as well about this, but we talked about the pen testing red team tool, and we also have our own SIM system. We have a network traffic threat analysis. We have source code analysis. We have black box testing. So again, all these tools really are for looking for problems inside the network and infrastructure and application. That's what I'm responsible for. Let's go to the next slide. Move really quick here. So the first step is, what is automated vulnerability scanning? It's hard, when I put this slide together, I wasn't sure, there may be people out there and, listening that, definitely know more than I do. And there may be people that don't know as much. So I just wanted to have this kind of slide to just give you an idea of where we are and why we think it's important to use an automated vulnerability scanning tool. And really the first thing it's the first step in any security program is to understand how safe am I, all right? Because you can add all kinds of firewalls, you can add all kinds of different equipment. But if you don't know, if you haven't taken a health check, almost like taking a physical when you go to the doctor to find out what's wrong with me before I know what to do, what kind of medicine. So here the idea is with vulnerability scanning is understand what the problem is. How safe is my network, or how much at risk am I at, because until you do a vulnerability scanning, you have no idea what's going on in your network, how vulnerable you are. The other thing I want to point out here is that you need to do pen testing. It's very important to do pen testing. It's very important to do exploitation and check exploitations of vulnerabilities in your network on critical parts. But the idea is that you cannot rely on it. You cannot rely on it only by itself, because we get new vulnerabilities every single day, just about every single day. And you need a tool to be able to scan your network on a regular basis. And the only way you can do that, the only way that really scales to scan your full network, or the big part of your network that you're interested in scanning, is you need an automated tool that is updated with all those latest security vulnerabilities, with all those tests and so forth. So that's why we're saying, when I say here, one-off scans is no longer enough. It's because what I write over here, because new and different vulnerabilities are discovered each day, and you need that kind of a tool to be able to test on a regular basis. Another thing too is a lot of people have, let's say, firewalls and all kinds of, different kinds of perimeter equipment, IPS equipment, intrusion detection equipment, and so forth. But the idea is that people are still getting hacked, and the problem is that once the hackers get into your network and you haven't scanned your network, you haven't fixed the vulnerabilities, then there's a huge attack surface. So the idea is to try to to minimize that attack surface by doing automated vulnerability scanning, fixing those vulnerabilities. So if the bad guys hack into your network, at least you'll fix those vulnerabilities and made it that much more difficult for them to take advantage of your network. Okay, the other thing, of course, is knowing you're complying with your standards. Everybody's got their own different standards, compliance, depending on what country you're in. And it's just the kind of tool that we have all kinds of compliance reports. We have ISO, CIS, GDPR, all the different types of compliance reports that you need. And basically, really, the idea is that using this kind of a tool, there's no surprises. You identify the risk before there's a disaster. That's the real key. You don't want to get caught, finding out that your network has been exploited. Okay, next slide. Okay, so basically a little bit about our tool right now. So it's also the big part that we see is MSP Managed Services is a big part of our business, and it allows you to provide to your customers those kinds of services that the customers don't have. They don't have the resources to do. It allows you to provide scanning services, and the idea is that it's very, very easy to provide. It's really, really easy. There's no work again. The work again is to do the remediation. This is something that you can add as, let's say, an additional service for your customer, or the customer will do it themselves. All right, so there's a lot of different things. It allows you really to be a full partner with your customer because you know what's going on in his network, you're scanning his network and so forth. Okay, it's a multi-tenant environment. Let's see what else we want to talk about here. If you're doing an MSP and you're a provider out there, it's full white labeled. So the reports your customers are going to get are not going to say anything about NSS or HelpSystems. It's going to say, it's going to have your company brand. And that's what you're going to do. You're going to reinforce your company brand. There's a lot of other services you can use with our tool as well. I talked about integration with Core Impact pen testing. Or maybe I didn't. So the tool that we talked about, Core Impact, that does pen testing, it can also, as an upsell, you can also integrate into the digital defense. Basically, it pulls the vulnerabilities into its database, into the Core Impact database, and then it will start exploiting those vulnerabilities. It's an option, you know, if your customer needs that. If you need that, then that's something they can do. The other thing that we have, it's a really cool, really nice feature, is called Active Threat Sweep. Really nice. I mean, think about this. It's not only doing vulnerability scanning, it's doing detection of worms, ransomware, malware, Trojans, a whole host of different and additional types of things you can use with the tool. This is a premium service because you can add it on as a subscription as well. And the other thing I just mentioned in terms of remediation, if you're an MSP and you're providing services, is you can also provide on-site remediation services. Okay. And again, with an MSP, with vulnerability scanning, especially because with vulnerability scanning, you're able to see your customer's network. You're able to see the issues that are going on, and it really enables you to become a trusted partner with your customer. Okay, let's go into the tool. Just so you know, we provide, and NSS provides full support to the tool. So we don't just sell you the tool and that's it. Obviously, we have ongoing updates. We have software version updates. We have reviews and so forth. So I'm just going to look at two different types of deployments. So the first deployment is the MSP deployment. Just want to give you an idea of how the tool is laid out, how it's set up. What do you really when you're using the tool, how is it laid out? So if you look here, you have something called the information server. This is essentially the management server. This is something that you are going to log in, and this is where you have your dashboard. You have all the information you need, and here you have your scanner. And this here sits in the cloud. It sits in the cloud. We use AWS in Ireland for our, let's say, for the European, Middle East, also in African customers. We have a big installation premise here in AWS in Ireland. So from here, you can see that I can scan through this scanner, and this is all virtual. Okay, I just made a box out of it, but it's all virtual for you guys. You have a scanner that's scanning the DMZ, and from here I can scan the web applications. I can scan anything essentially that speaks IP. All right, and then you have here the for the internal network. Let me okay. So from here I can scan the DMZ, and then for the internal network, what we do is we just put in scanners, and the scanners are really easy to put in. You just load them down from the internet. They start talking to the management server. They start doing polling, and it just goes. And here's an MSP. This is like, for example, customer 1, customer 2, customer 3. Now, if we're looking at different types of the digital defense scanning tool allows you to have different types of customers if you are an MSP service provider. So I like to give the example, let's say a common example is you have a small, let's say SMB that really doesn't have the resources to, handle things, to run the scans or anything like that. They just want to see the report, get it out to somebody and have them fix vulnerability. So in this particular case, this guy, whoever's running in customer 1, he's going to tell you, look, I don't have time. Just give me the report. Give me a report once a week, once a month, whatever it is. And that's it. I'm not interested in anything else. Then you could have like another type of customer that's let's say, a customer with more resources, a bigger security team, and they'll say to you, look, I want to run everything. I want to manage everything. I know what I'm doing. So you would be able to give them, let's say, a login, and he would become the system administrator of his own company. And then he can also create what we call sub-organizations over here, where he can delegate additional, like he may have like an accounting department, or he may have a department that's like all his checkpoint firewalls or whatever it is. He can create any kind of organization because they essentially become virtual containers that he can create and assign and scan as any way he wants. And then we have customer, let's say number 3. And let's say customer number 3 is, let's say he's a service provider. He's a smaller level service provider. So what's nice is that he can also start scanning his customers from here. And he's using basically he's basically using your infrastructure, your setup, and he's going to be able to scan, let's say, his smaller number of systems. And he can also white label to his customers, all right? Because maybe he doesn't want to use your label. He wants to use his own label, of course. So those are the different options. There's a number of different other options that come up, different scenarios, but these are 3 main ones. I just wanted to give you an idea of some of the things that you can do. Okay, now let's take the look. We just looked at MSP. The only thing that changes in this slide right now, look, it says MSP up here. Okay, and now we're going to look at enterprise. All right, so we're looking at the same thing. It's the same thing, but now we're looking at a more traditional. Let's say if you're, let's say, a VAR and you want to sell to your customer, and you can basically provide the same thing. So instead of a customer, these become organizations or business units. And again, these are virtual containers. So they can be a customer, like we talked about in the previous slide, and they can also be virtual containers. Virtual containers meaning that this customer has, let's say he has a site in New York and they're doing web application testing. So he would create an organization called New York Web Applications. He would assign all the people responsible for web applications in New York, and then they would be handling the scans here. You can have, oh, 1 second, I lost, okay, there we go. And then we could have, another customer that's handling, network printers on the 3rd floor of building A. Whatever it is, you can create anything you want. So you can call it network printers, building A, whatever it is. So that's the way it works. It gives you a lot of flexibility. You can make this the accounting department or the lab or whatever it is. All right. And again, you can scan the just like the MSP, you can scan the internal network and the DMZ. And for, not to get too technical, but in an enterprise environment for different organizations, I don't need a firewall. Okay. So if this is like if this is a flat network, I could have, let's say, one scanner scanning my whole network. Okay, it really just depends. And that's something that we would take you step by step with that, with our engineering team to show you what you need to do. But it's quite simple. Usually, let's say for 1,000 IPs, you need 1 or 2 scanners, really. Okay, this is what I want to do here is just get into the features, some of the nice features. We'll talk really quickly about it. I won't keep you too much longer, because I think what's going to be good, what's going to be nice is the live demo that Emmanuel is going to show just in a few minutes. So these are some of the features I'm going to talk about. We've got some upselling that we're going to talk about in terms of the agentless sweep, which I talked about before, about testing for malware, ransomware, a really nice feature. And then we've got different, let's see what else I want to talk about. I guess in terms of this slide, I'll just mention here about the upsell for the vulnerability exploitation. That's when we integrate Core Impact into your vulnerability scanning tool. Okay, let's move on. Well, now I'm going to go into each of those, and we'll talk just a few words. First of all, whether you're an enterprise type of customer or you're a service provider, integration becomes very, very important, because it makes your life easier, it makes your customers' lives easier. And we have, of course, an API open interface we can integrate into ticketing systems, we can integrate into patch management systems as well. All right, so just keep that in mind. If you need that, then that's something that we can support you as well. And of course, it helps you to be more, I call it sticky, but it's the idea is to be, be able to be closer, have that real relationship with your customers. So now, if we're looking at MSP right now, we talked about being multi-tenant, and what I mean by multi-tenant is, if we're talking multi-tenant, this is multi-tenant, everybody's separate, all the different customers. So that's what I mean by multi-tenant. So here, through the dashboard, you can look at all your different customers, and you can see how your customers are going over time. So here, this is just a sample dashboard where I can look over time how things are going inside the customer's network. Are things like getting worse? Are things getting better? Do I need to speak with the customer? Do I need to, find out what's going on? And another thing, I'm not sure that this belongs to this slide, but we talked about the white labeling. So here you can set up your own white labels for your customers. You just add your logo, your colors, whatever you want, adjust the size. You can really play with it, and you don't need any help. You don't need anybody's help because it's all right there, through the GUI here. Okay, security rating. So we use, for example, basically we use the CVSS score as one of the standards. We have another one which I'll get into, but CVSS is a rating. It's a static rating that tells you how critical your vulnerability is. But we've added an additional level to that to make it a bit easier and quicker to understand how critical or how much at risk my network is. And we really make it quite simple. We do A to F, like a test in school. A is perfect and F is failing. So you don't want to have F. So here, for example, I can look quickly here at this particular customer or this particular segment, and I know I got some problems. I have a D+, so I know I've got issues. It also converts it into a number. This number is used more in the US. I'm not going to really get into that, but just concentrate on the letter value, AF. And you can see here that it basically the value or the risk level is getting worse. Okay. Actually, I think I need to talk about the number. So so here we have two ways to do it. We talked about A, perfect, F, failing. The other way is F is perfect and 0 is failing. It's from the US essentially. It's called a GPA, and that's when you go to university, you get a GPA score. 4 is perfect, 0 is failing. So they kind of added that in there. It's not so relevant for, let's say, for our area where we're dealing, but you can see it's 4 and 0. So here it's a 1, which is really bad. Okay. But the main takeaway from this is be able to look at your dashboards, pick up the letters, and find out if the letters are bad. You already know what the situation is, and you can see all the different dashboards and graphs and things like that. Okay, threat landscape. This is an interesting feature. I just mentioned about how we have the CVSS score, which is a good score. I mean, a good score. It's a reputable, and it's being used by all vendors or most vendors to basically rate the vulnerabilities, how critical they are to you and your network. But we've taken an additional step. We've created a dynamic rating, which we call threat landscape. And what's really nice about threat landscape is that it allows you to be able to see things dynamically. So, for example, what we do is we get these input feeds from all kinds of different organizations. They cost us a lot of money, and we also spend a lot of money internally on our research teams, where we analyze around the globe, around the wild, as it's called, how vulnerabilities are they being exploited out in the real world? How common are those vulnerabilities, and how common those vulnerabilities are, and how often they are being exploited. And that is brought to us to an input feed, to machine language, and then we integrate it into our system through the back end of our tool. But what it does for our users is that it allows them to have a more realistic view of their vulnerabilities. So, For example, you could have, let's say, a medium risk vulnerability according to the CVSS score, but let's say that out in the wild, it's really, really common, that vulnerability, and there's a lot of exploits that are occurring. We will give that vulnerability a high risk vulnerability. We'll give it a high risk score and tell you, listen, this is a vulnerability. Even though it's medium, you need to concentrate on this because this could be a real problem for you. So this is really the advantage of a threat landscape. This is something that's really critical, and you need to pay attention, because if you get to the point where it's high risk, it's something you need to really take care of right away. You don't want to have high risk vulnerabilities in your network, because it means someone with medium ability can take over, your systems, and you will know about it. So it's important to keep attention on that. In terms of network map, this is just something gives you like a 2D or what is it, 3D or 2D? I don't know. It gives you this kind of gives you a realistic view of the network that you are scanning. So when you're scanning your network, you can click on these things, open them up to different systems. You can have they're represented by different colors. Let's say red if it's high risk, and all kinds of different ways. And it's really, really nice. And it shows you how different systems affect other systems in your network. Some people don't use it, but there's a lot of people, let's say, that have larger networks. They want to see what's going on, how different systems are affecting other systems, and they want to be able to they can hide different nodes based on the filtering that's set up in the system. Hopefully we have some time. If not, we can do like a one-on-one and get more deeper into this with you guys if you're interested. But hopefully we'll have time to show that with Emmanuel. So that's here's a peer comparison. Now, peer comparison, I think, is when this feature first came out, I didn't think it was going to be so interesting for our customers, but it turns out it is for a lot of them. And what peer comparison allows you to do is it allows you to compare your risk level, or your situation, your risk level compared to other organizations in your market. So if you're like a chemical company or something like that, or a pharmaceutical, you can bring up and find out how you compare to other pharmaceutical companies. So for management, it's sometimes quite interesting for them, because they want to know how do they stand compared to the rest of their competitors in terms of security. Okay, we talked about the API, so I don't need to talk about this. We have agent scanning as well for Windows and Mac. So it gives you another option. So if you have situations where you have like very small remote sites that you can't for some reason put a scanner in there, or you have, let's say, people that are logging in, logging off, let's say with their PCs, and you can't scan them at that moment. So that kind of situation is really good for agent scanning. I think we're almost done here, guys. So, I hope everybody's still with me. But I want to kind of point this out. This is really a really good feature, and it's called Active Threat Sweep. And as I mentioned before, this is an upsell. If you're basically providing services to your customers, this is another feature that you can help them with their security. And again, this is something that doesn't come as a basic package for the tool. But you can add it, and you can add subscription times and also set times when they can use it and so forth. And you have, for example, all the detection right here. You guys can see it. So ransomware, of course, is very interesting for people, malware, and other things. CIS benchmarking is another something. This basically will check the hardness of the devices that you have according to different regulations. Web application testing. So the tool, of course, has a full-blown web application module with a crawler that can test for SQL injection, cross-site scripting, buffer overflow, not just for, it's testing for like configuration errors, all kinds of different things. So that's the web application. And that's it for me, essentially. These are just some of the things that we're trying to ask, when we're trying to talk to our customers, essentially. Okay.
Thank you very much, Zvi. I would call it a brief, precise, and concise presentation. I guess you squeezed in all the juicy parts.
How much did I go over, by the way?
A few seconds.
Oh, that's it. Perfect. Okay, good.
So I just want to remind to our audience that you can express all your questions through the chat, and we will have some time at the end to answer them all. Now, let's move on to the long-awaited demo from Emmanuel. Emmanuel, you are the presenter now. Thank you, Zvi.
Pleasure.
Thanks, Zvi. Hi, everyone. Happy to talk to you today. And I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see my screen?
Perfectly right.
Yeah, perfect. Good. So I'm going to start my demo. I don't have I have around 15 minutes. So I'm going to give an overview of the tool. And of course, if you're interested, then we can have other sessions to go deeper into the tool. So I'm going to start with the end user view, okay? And then I'm going to talk about the MSP features. So this is what the customer sees. Either you are an end user. So if you are an end user, this is what you're going to see. If you are an MSP, I'm going to show it later. So this is the Frontline at a glance. So this is what you see on your dashboard. Okay, basically the main objective of this dashboard is to show you the results of your scans, where you stand at, and what are the assets and the vulnerabilities that you should look at and fix in order to improve that drastically your vulnerability status and to be less at risk, basically. So let's start with what you see on the network summary. You see the GPA score that Zvi talked about. So it's based on the US system. So it goes from 1 to 4, 4 being the best, and from A to D. Basically, the closer you are to A and the closer you are to 4, the better. Okay. So this score is not the best one, but this is a testing environment, and we are scanning assets with vulnerabilities. So the main objective here is, even though this is not a real reference for European, basically you can see once you are remediating vulnerabilities that are detected during scans, then you have to look at this number, and if you see this number becoming bigger and bigger, and the letter getting closer to 8, then you know that you are doing your job, and this is basically a reference. So this is, as you can see, it's int, so it's internal. You have the same concept for the external scanning, so internet-facing assets that you can scan. Basically, our web application scanning here. Okay. Here you can see the number of assets that you scanned. Okay, 44. The number of vulnerabilities that were detected, okay, on these 44 different assets. The number of malware infections, okay, and when the last scan took place 7 hours ago, and the number of checks that were added in the last round of checks. Basically, the scanners are getting checks regularly, like every day or 2 days, because a new vulnerabilities are discovered. Our team is building tests for these vulnerabilities. They are pushing it on a server, and this server is pushing it on the scanners, so the scanners can be always up to date and takes into account the latest vulnerabilities in the wipe. Okay, this is the average threat rank. So besides the purely and cold CVSS score, I would say, you also have the threat rank. So this is a concept that takes into account the context. Okay, so the CVSS score is based on a few metrics, but it was set at a specific time, and it never changes. Okay, the thing is here that with the threat rank, our researchers, they are checking what's going on today, and if they see something that's critical in terms of CVSS, let's say as a CVSS score of 10, it goes from 2 to 10, I believe, but they see that it's not exploited and nothing was seen in the wild, then the threat rank will be less. So you know exactly what assets you have to look at and whatnot. Here it's exactly the peer comparisons we talked about. So you can see the different, the other companies similar to yours basically in the same industry, same number of employees. Basically, when you just get when you just receive the tool, then you have to answer a few questions. You are not, you don't have to, but if you want to be taken into account in this trending security GPA, and you will have to say the number of employees, the sector, etc. And then you will be compared, and you will be able to compare yourself with the other actor of the same industry. On the right hand side, and you see the rated vulnerability distribution. So amongst the 313 vulnerabilities detected, this is the breakdown. So this the five unique vulnerabilities, you know, are critical, a number of high, medium, low, and trivial. So we do not provide only, you know, vulnerabilities according to severity, but we also provide trivial. What are trivials? There are recommendations. So it's not a real vulnerability, but it's something that's really recommended. So we are able to detect some configuration. I don't want to say issue because they're not really issue, but and provide recommendation to avoid issues in the future, basically. So we can basically anticipate, which is really great. Here at assets at risk, these are the 5 assets, okay, according to a calculation that's going to take it into account the CVSS score and the threat rank. So the likelihood to be exploited in the wild of the different assets, you know, vulnerabilities detected on these assets, and we say, okay, these are the 5 assets that you should absolutely fix if you wanna reduce drastically the risk, your risk. Okay, so if you check the vulnerabilities on all these assets and you fix them, then your GPA score here will get much better, and you can work like this. And then once you fix the vulnerabilities on this asset, then you can go ahead and fix the vulnerabilities on the other 5 assets, and you can work like this. As you can see on the right hand side, then we give the threat rank value. Okay, you see here a likelihood of exploitation based on threat activity observed into the wild. So we are explaining why we gave a score of 98. You know, it goes from 0 to 100. 98 is really, it's huge. We give the operating system and the type of machine that we are looking at. We can sort it by severity. Okay, severity will take into account, you know, critical, medium, high, and the threat rank. So I explain what it is. It takes into account the context, basically the likelihood to be exploited nowadays on the current, you know, taking into account the current context. The vulnerabilities you should fix, it's the same concept, but in terms of vulnerabilities. Okay, so these are the 5 most detected vulnerabilities and the most critical vulnerabilities. So you can see they are all critical. One of them, the second one, is a malware, okay, a Trojan. And on the right-hand side, you see the number of instances. So here, the SSL connection server vulnerable to Heartbleed attack. Then I have it on 5 different assets. I can click on the 5 here. And I will see on what asset, you know, this vulnerability was detected. Okay, and I can see here if I click exactly why this 92 was given. You know, this is a note from our researchers. And if I click on the vulnerability, then I can have the detail of the vulnerability. Okay, this is basically the response from the machine that proves that it's vulnerable. You know, the response. And here I can see exactly the details of the vulnerability, the CVSS score, the metrics of the CVSS score, and the solution. Okay, this is what we all want. We all want to be able to fix. Okay, so this is really great, and I can also from the dashboard, you know, let's say I'm going to show all the assets here. Let's say I remediated vulnerabilities on these assets and I want to rescan them. So from here, I can simply click on rescan, you know, and rescan them. Okay, so as easily as that. Scanning is very easy. I just want to finish here this dashboard. So active threats on your network will show you the number of malware detected. Okay, and here the instances. So it's the same concept. Of course, the score will be always very high because it's malware and it's very dangerous. At the very bottom of this dashboard, you know, gives you a lot of information. Of course, you'll have to go to other sections, but this dashboard already gives you a lot of information. On the recent Try Frontline cloud releases, you can see the releases on the software itself. So, you know, releases, fixes, etc. I clicked on it, and then I downloaded automatically a PDF that shows me basically what was done, fixed, etc. Added, and here I can see the new checks, the new tests added to the tool. You see, the last time it was added, it was yesterday. So as I told you, it's really up to date. We add the test very frequently, and you see for what we are adding the test. So you see the number of tests we're adding, and you see this on the dashboard. So our researcher really, you know, are really taking this very seriously to make sure you are not at risk and to reduce, of course, the risk. Good. So this is the dashboard. I'm going to show you now. If I can move this. I want to show you how you can scan. So give me just 1 second. Okay, good. Here you see the new button. Okay, so if I want to scan, then I can create from here a new scan, new user, new report. As easy as that. I'm going to click on new scan, and then here I just have to give the scan a name. Okay, give a scan a description if I wish. I can create a routine. You know, I can repeat the scan, you know, daily, monthly, weekly, the way I want. I can set up a time so I can decide when I want the scan to start. Okay, and I have, you know, I can run host discovery only. You know, run as Cortez scan. This is what it means. I can get an email notification when the scan finishes. So I know exactly when to come to log in and basically check my platform and see the results. I can see the scan policy. I have different scan policies here. So the scan policy basically are the scan settings. So I can decide to create scan policies that have, you know, for instance, I can say I want the scan to run on port the full port range, you know, from 1 to 65,535. I want the scan speed to be very fast, and I want so you can determine and create a profile that you are going to assign to the scan. So here, for instance, the first one you see is the Apache Log4j. So because of this vulnerability, you know, our researchers and developers, they created a test for it. It was very important, so they did it very fast, and we created a special scan policy that takes into account only the test that will be able to detect this vulnerability. So this is one of them, but then you can create your own, and you have many different defaults one. Okay, you can here select your scan speed. Okay, scan speed basically is the request sent to the machine per second. It's recommended, of course, to keep it normal. Okay, from there you can also create your report. We have a lot of different reports. Okay, different templates. Okay, you can see here the different number of templates that we have. We have a lot of compliance templates. So basically, you can scan your machines against a specific benchmark. So you can see Windows 10 Enterprise. We have a lot of them, different Windows ones. You know, a lot of different standards, etc. So we have a lot of different reports that are very interesting. I'm going to show a few in a minute. Okay, we can also show a network map of the network that you are scanning. Okay, so Zvi talked about it. So here I can see that I have 32 servers, and then I have and in each of them I have some ranges. Okay, like this one. So I can click on it, and then I can see the detail of everything. You know, and I can click on one of them. And on the right hand side.
Emmanuel, let me interrupt a little bit because it seems that you have frozen and we can't see either your screen or your video. So if you're showing us something on the demo, it's not visible. Sorry about that. And
you can hear me? You can hear me?
We can hear you all right.
I'll have to reconnect because I don't know what it does. It just stopped suddenly, so
Okay.
I cannot see you now. But
Do you
can
think
hear
it's proper? We can move on with a few basic questions with regards to Zvi's presentation and wait for you.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
I'm coming back, I hope. Yeah.
Thank you, Manuel. Zvi, are you with us?
Sure.
I hope you are.
Yeah, I'm here.
So we have some basic, I was trying to do some mix and matching of the questions we received.
Okay,
How easy
sure.
is it to onboard a new client?
You mean like from an MSP standpoint?
Well,
Is that
let's take it from there. Yes, most of
okay?
our
All
people
right.
here are resellers. Right?
Okay, we can actually look at it from both ways. So really, in terms of an MSP, let's say a service provider, when you want to bring a new customer on the, it's really, really simple. I kind of touched on it before in the presentation. There is no really interaction needed by the service provider because all you do is you connect to the website, to our website. You hit click, you download it. You download the virtual scanner. It starts talking to the information server by itself automatically, and that's it. It's like a few minutes. It's really, really simple. We worked on this ahead of time, knowing that an issue with service providers or anybody who's trying to work is to try to make the work that they're doing, onboarding, things like that, make it as smooth as possible. So yeah, we've automated the whole process, so there's not much.
It's really easy. I can show it, but I don't know if I have time, but I can just give, a few words about it. Basically, you just enter the email address, name, surname of the client. And basically the client you give the subscription. So the number of IPs the client can scan, the web application, the threat landscape, the malware detection, the agent scanning, container scanning. So you decide the subscription you want to give to your client, and then you just click on a button that will send an email to the client. This email contains everything for the client to start using the tool, and basically that's it. Everything is explained on this email. It's very easy and very clear.
Okay.
And just add one thing also for, let's say you're for an enterprise customer or SMB, makes no difference. The whole idea, sorry, I just like turn this thing off, is the whole idea there is also it's the same thing. When you start implementing the scanners that you have in your network, again, you just go to the website and click it, and that's it.
I can see a question here.
Yes, but before we move into this new one, let me, I think there's a continuation to the original question. What VM scanner type do we support? Is it VMware compatible, Hyper-V?
So yeah, I'm going to answer. So VMware, Hyper-V, AMI, so on AWS, on Azure, VirtualBox. So really compatible with all the different commonly used hypervisor.
Okay. All right. There's another one here. Zvi, are you with us? You're frozen as well.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All right. I can hear you. I can hear you. So
Okay, we can hear you too. Okay, now you're
frozen in time.
Can I white label the interface of the report?
Absolutely, you can white label everything. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, wonderful. So yeah, you can white label the interface. So there won't be any mention of Frontline or digital defense. At the very bottom, there is a tiny mention of powered by digital defense, but everything will be with your logo and your colors, because you can create a theme. You can decide of the colors, add your logo, add the link in which you will be redirected when someone clicks on the logo, and the reports can be also white labeled, fully white labeled, with your team, with your color, with the logo on the background, the top of the page. You can basically customize it the way you want.
Okay. Do we also support web application scanning?
Absolutely. As I showed before, I don't know if you could see, but yes, absolutely, we support it, and we are performing like the web tests that we commonly see in the OWASP standard. So SQL injection, remote inclusion, cross-site scripting, and many others. Absolutely.
How about the container scanning? This is very innovative and very nice.
And the question is, how does it work?
I mean, how do you do the containers?
George, make one thing, George, just one thing before that. I just wanted to make the point about how we're scanning things with what we're scanning. So I just want to make the point that anything really to look at, anything that talks IP, that's what we like to say, we can scan. Okay, so that's really important. And anyway, anything else?
Well, I guess a few people have done their homework. They're asking, did we mention that you can get a trial for the platform? Because I have a few questions of how do I sign up for a trial and how long does this trial last?
Yeah, normally it's a pretty simple process. There's like actually an evaluation package. So you download it again from the internet. And what we do is we usually do like a kickoff where we do like a short training session to make sure everything's okay, get your scans running. Normally it's 25 IPs and what is it? 1 week, 2 weeks, Emmanuel? Do you remember? It's 1 week or 2 weeks, something
Okay,
like that.
14 days trial, right?
Yeah, something
And
like that.
can they add additional users on this?
Yeah, it's not a problem. Yeah,
During,
additional.
okay, all right.
There's no, actually, the pricing includes, unlimited users, really, so it makes no difference. The user is not a problem.
And we provide support and assistance during the trial,
Yeah,
right?
of course.
Well, there was another question about this.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
no, I'm just saying, it's of
So,
course.
Zvi, I hope we didn't cut you short, and there you go again. No, not Zvi, excuse me, Emmanuel. We lost Emmanuel again. Anyhow, I believe he had a few more things to say, right? With the platform.
No, I think he
He was
covered
very
it.
close. Yes, he was very
Yeah,
close to the end. So we have another question. Is it authenticated scan if we're talking about host vulnerabilities?
Yeah, we can do, I don't know where Emmanuel is, but I mean, it's pretty basic feature, so I can answer. Yeah, we do support authenticated scanning to connect into servers, systems, web applications, everything. Yeah, of course.
Okay.
And
So,
but normally we would recommend to start without doing authenticated scanning because if you haven't done scanning before, there'll be enough vulnerabilities to deal with. Because when you do authenticated scanning, you'll find more vulnerabilities. All right, just best practice.
that's a nice question. He's ready to buy. What do I do if I want to upgrade from a trial and become subscribed?
To do a trial and start using the tool, implement with the full
Yes.
license. You just
Well,
have to
I
tell
can
us.
answer. I can answer that. I mean, he addresses.
Basically, we have to know how many
When he
IPs.
says,
Yeah, basically, I need to know how many IPs you want to test, and so forth. Yeah.
okay, okay. Well, last but not least, I believe we should hear the wise words of our commercial director, George Koumintzis. He's with us, not talking all day. George, what did you think about this webinar today?
I would like to thank everybody for attending. It's been very busy days for all of us, but I think it worth the time since right now I think the hot topic of today is our MSP partners and big customers to create their own services. What I would like to highlight, and it's a question we are getting from partners, is that the commercial model is very, I would say, sexy. It's €2 per IPs for the digital defense, meaning that it is something that it's very well priced given the automation and let's say the continuously operation you can do with your end user. So this is something that makes this service very, very attractive for our partners in order to create their own services based on this software. And I think during next week, we will see also how we can do more using also Core Impact and how we can do more things without having to depend on a large team of pen testers, the Core Impact. So I don't know if I reply to the question of all of you, Christos, or the other guys that asked me about the model, but this is in general the model. And if we go with more features like active ATS, it goes more than €2. But in general, this is basic the concept. It goes with per IP model, and it has a commitment of 1 year for the beginning, and that is the commercial model. In general, we can discuss in details on one-on-one if you need more things.
I would just add too, just on the MSP, the way we price it, it's in different groups. So the more IPs you're scanning, you get to the point like when you're scanning more IPs per IP per month, it comes out to nothing. So you get more, there's more revenue for you the more that you're scanning essentially. So the way it's built is to encourage you to, of course, to scan more IPs.
I think it's not important to speak about how low the price is, but what are the benefits, because they will create an add-on service to their portfolio and they will be able to cross-sell other things. Because vulnerability assessment is just the beginning, the assurance services that most of the companies need to provide to their customers, and then they can do penetration testing, and with our tools they can automate it, and they can run like 90% of what the professional teams are doing, and then you can have the other 10% with manual pen testing. That's why you don't need to, you should see the next webinar next week. It's very important because it provides the tools for you to make your pen testing, the pen testing yourselves. So for me, this is just, digital defense is the start of the series of products that you need in your portfolio to be able to offer these services.
That's for sure. That's for sure. And the upsell integration capabilities as well is important. Yeah.
Yes, there are. So thank you, Georges, and Zvi. My regards to Emmanuel, if you see him.
Yeah.
He didn't manage to come back in. So, and a big thank you to all our attendees for their participation and, of course, their engagement and their questions. I will finish up with showing you once again and reminding you that next week, same day, same time, we will have our penetration testing webinar. That would be very fascinating, right? There are a lot of people actually asking about it before we even mention it, before we announce it. So, Godspeed to all. See you in
Many
1
thanks,
week.
everybody.
Thank you all.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.